Okay, here's some more solving linear equations, and these will be three-step equations or beyond. And here we have a little bit different than what we've seen so far, is we've got a variable and a numerical term on the left and a variable and a numerical term on the right. So now we have variables on both sides. So whenever you come up with an equation like this, and even if we go back and look at 10, usually when you're simplifying your equations, no matter how complicated they look, eventually you'll get up to something like this, either variable number. So you have a variable number on one side and a number on the other side, or you'll end up with variable number. You usually come down to one of these steps and then you have to go from there. So this is probably what we could say the worst case scenario, because now you got variables on both sides. You have to get all the variables on the same side first. So you want to basically make this equation look like this one, and then we know how to solve these. Then we move the numbers on the other side, then we find out what x is. So it kind of goes, we work our way backwards. So first of all, I want to get all my variables on the same side. Now I always try to get my variables where there are more positives so I don't have negatives to deal with. In other words, if I subtracted 12x from both sides, I'd have a negative 4x on the right. And then eventually I would have to deal with that negative sign. So if I subtract 8x from both sides, that's going to move the variables to the left side of the equation. And this is called the left member of the equation. This is called the right member of the equation. So what I'll do first is I'm going to subtract 8x from both sides. Okay, and then 8x minus 8x is 0. So that's why I did it. That removes it from the right side. But 12x minus 8x, well, it's like 12 apples minus 8 apples is 4 apples. So 4x. So I've got 4x on the left. Plus 4 still. Equals, and then 8x minus 8x is 0, and 0 minus 7 is just negative 7. So that's what you have left. Now keep your equal signs lined up. And again, remember what you do to the left, you do to the right. Okay? Then it looks like one of these basic equations. So now all I do is subtract 4 from both sides. This 4 is joined by multiplication. This is joined by addition. The opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'll subtract 4 from both sides. And 4 minus 4 is 0. So I've got 4x on the left. And a negative 7 and a negative 4. Remember, if you have trouble with these, you can look at the video I did on sign numbers if you didn't. And again, we always take the sign of the larger when we're adding. So the sign of the larger will be negative. And since the signs are the same, we take the sum, and the sum of 11 and 4 is, the sum of 7 and 4, The sum of 7 and 4 is 11. So that's how you deal with your sign numbers. Then I want to solve for x. The 4 is joined by multiplication, so I'll divide both sides. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I divide both sides by 4, and there's your answer. X equals negative 11 over 4. Now the negative sign can either go in the front of the fraction, on the top, on the bottom, doesn't matter. One negative sign. And just leave it like that. Okay? And again, if you look at this, remember what we did to the left, we did to the right. So if you keep your equal signs lined up, that's going to help maintain the integrity of all your work. And you can see left, right, left, right, left, right. So please keep that in mind, because sometimes students will add and subtract, or add twice from the left, or subtract twice from the right, and that's not going to work. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Number 12. And this is 3x minus 2 equals 1 minus 5x. And again, I've got x's on both sides. So I would try to get all the x's where there are more positive x's. So I've got positive 3 and negative 5, if I can. Sometimes you have negatives on both sides. There's nothing you can do. But in this case, I have more positives on the left, so I'll try to remove these. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. So 5x and 5x makes that 0. So 3x plus 5x is 8x. Minus 2 equals 1. And then 5x minus 5x, or negative 5x plus 5x is 0, so that's okay. Now I've got this looking like the other equations. I want to get rid of the 8 and the 2. The 2 is joined by subtraction. The 8 is joined by multiplication. Subtraction is the weaker the operation. The opposite of subtraction is addition, so I'll add 2 to both sides. And on the left, I have just left 8x. And on the right, 1 plus 2 is 3. Again, keep your equal signs lined up. It's going to make life a lot easier. 8 is joined by multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So I'll divide both sides by 8. And you can see what I did to the left, I did to the right. And 8 over 8 is 1, so I just have 1x. And that equals 3 over 8. And there's your solution. And then number 13, one more of these basic three-step equations. You see it's 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. This is number 13. I'll just start over here. 1 minus 5x equals 4 minus 7x so again, we try to get all of our x's where there are more positives or less negatives. Since I've got negatives on both sides, I might think I have a dilemma, but I've got fewer negatives here, so I'll try to get all my x's on the left. And then I should end up with positive x's. That's going to make life a lot easier. So in order to do that, I'm going to remove the x's on the right. The opposite of subtraction is addition, so I'm going to add 7x to both sides. So 7x minus 7x, that's 0. So that's nice. So on the right side, I've got 4. And on the left side, I've still got my 1 over here, 1. And that's, there's a couple ways to do this. The signs are different, so I always take the sign of the larger, which is positive, so I'm going to have a positive, and I take the difference between 7 and 5, which is 2. Or you could just say 7x minus 5x. 7 apples minus 5 apples is 2 apples. A couple ways to do that. And now I've got a simpler equation. It's like a two-step equation from now on. So what I'll do is I'll just subtract. Now the one is, if we look what it's in front of the one, we have to do the opposite. So the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides. 1 minus 1 is 0. So what's left is just 2 over x. That equals, try to keep these lined up and sliding over a little bit to the left. And 4 minus 1 is 3. And I want to finish this up, so I want to get rid of the 2. The 2 is joined by multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division, so I'll divide both sides by 2. And 2 over x is just, or 2 over 2 is 1, so I've got 1 times x, which is just x. And I have equals, and just 3 over 2. Remember, you could write that as 1.5 or 1.5, but this is fine. 3 over 2 is good. Okay? And then again, I got my equal signs lined up. I started to slide a little bit to the left, so watch out there. And notice, in each case, what I did to the left, I did to the right. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Exactly the same thing to keep the equation balanced. Okay, so those are three-step equations.